Explanation I can come up with for why we haven't had a revolution in Canada yet is because people are not aware of the situation, aware of exactly what's going on in this country. We are allowing over 1.5 between permanent and temporary residents into this country on an annual basis. This is at the same time that there are currently 220,000 housing starts. So 1.5 million and 220,000 housing starts at the same time as we have a housing crisis. 70,000 Canadians are dying every year because they can't access the healthcare they need through their public healthcare system that's overrun due to 8 million people in the country in the past decade. I personally know 2 people that have died. And the sickest thing about it all is that the government is then incentivizing companies to hire these new arrivals over Canadian citizens. I kid you not. Government program after government program, I'm not going to go into specifics here, but look into it. Canadians are intentionally being replaced in this country. They are paying 50% of the salary on job after job, incentivizing businesses not to employ longtime Canadians. It's insanity, and I didn't buy it at first, but literally what they are doing is they are replacing longtime Canadian citizens. It is not an exaggeration, as crazy as it sounds, to say if you are a new arrival in Canada, you are treated much better by our government than Canadian citizens are. It's insanity. There's a rainbow refugee program. New arrivals to Canada that are members of the 2SL LGBTQ community get their entire first year paid for. Entire first year paid for in Canada, while we have a record 2 million Canadians using food banks. Same token, new immigrants to Canada are eligible to receive up to $283 a day. This is at the same time that our GDP per capita, which is the strongest measure of how individual Canadian citizens are doing. Ignore GDP. They just flood the country so that Brookfield's $37 billion of assets go up. GDP goes up, but GDP per capita is the number that actually matters because it's the general dollar value on a per Canadian basis. It has dropped for 6 quarters in a row. So they flood the zone with immigrants. Guys like Mark Carney, Brookfield Asset Management, the WF Davos, they make money hand over fist. Well, the rest of the population suffers. And then they slam it in our face by incentivizing companies to hire non-Canadian citizens. And particularly if you are a white Canadian, if you apply for any job, they essentially want to identify you as white so that they know not to hire you. Go on to any hiring board. They'll ask you, are you Indigenous? Are you Black? All of this woke nonsense. I thought Canada was supposed to be a meritocratic country where the best person got the job. We've become the polar opposite of that. It's textbook Cloward pivot strategy, divide and conquer. These guys like Mark Carney, who are absolute puppets for global elitists. They're certainly not global elites. They're pieces of crap. They're not elite at anything. They're global elitists who gladly pillage this country, this beautiful country, for all of its resources to get them and themselves rich. Well, the standard of living for middle and lower class Canadians continues to drop, and they must think we don't notice, but more and more Canadians are noticing. We know that CBC, CTV are pure propaganda. Pure propaganda. You visit the CBC, it's embarrassing. They don't cover any issues that matter to everyday Canadians. They cover a bunch of woke garbage, but Canadians are catching on. You can't shut us all up. I know you do absolutely everything you can through CBC's so-called Visual Investigations Unit. I kid you not. They do everything they can to shut down dissident voices. But on alternative media platforms, you can't shut us all up. And more Canadians are tuning out of your BS mainstream crap that's literally subsidized by the government. The Canadian taxpayer pays the CBC $1.5 billion with a B dollars a year to spew pure government drivel at us. But more and more Canadians are catching on, and we are starting to watch TikTok, we are starting to watch YouTube, and seeing what Mark Carney and the Liberal Party have actually. Can somebody explain to me how Justin Trudeau's net worth went from about $1 million to well over $100 million in 10 years without rank corruption? Because that's exactly what happened. Mark Carney lied during the run of the election. He said all he owned was liquid assets in real estate. Turns out he has investments in over 500 companies with over 90% of his investments in the United States. The Canadian citizens are sick of being sold out time and time again. And then if you call any of this bullshit out, you get called a racist, you get called a xenophobe. They throw all this woke BS at you. No, I'm a patriotic Canadian who loves his country. I have ancestors who died in World War II, and you're not going to shut us up by just yelling racist. Maybe that worked in 2020. That garbage does not work anymore. Canadians have caught on to your plan, and we are straight up not buying it. I've set up a rally Saturday, September 13th for Canadian sovereignty, for Canadian free speech, noon, Parliament Hill. If you're interested in attending, let me know. If you want to become a member, hit that join button, get in on the ground floor, help me mold this movement, because I know that Canadians are eager to take our once great country back. We are not going to be bulldozed by these corrupt politicians. Please like, subscribe, share. If you're watching on TikTok, make sure you're tuned in on YouTube, youtube.com/F5 for Canada 2025, because as I mentioned, the Canadian government is not a big fan of dissidents. Let's go. Patriotic Canadians are going to take this country back.